Hello and welcome to the fourth session of the module Event Design and Concepts. I hope you have gone through all the three previous sessions and you have enjoyed and understood them as well. We are also going to now do practical application of all the theories that we have learned, like in creative ideation, the brainstorming techniques, and how do you apply these in practice. So let's move on. Before we move on to the fourth session, I want to quickly do a recap of the third session. What did we learn in the third session? We talked about the secret pool of ideas or the source of inspiration of how and where to get these ideas from. Does anybody remember what are some secret pool of ideas? For example, we spoke about pop culture. Pop culture means popular culture elements like cinema, or it could be a TV series or sports or fashion from which you can get some inspiration of ideas. Or it could be destinations, like countries, or it could be places like airports. Or you can also have a lot of inspiration from festivals, like we spoke about the Color Festival. Or there is also a Tomatin festival in Spain. We can take inspiration from that and actually do an event around it too. Okay, so like that, we discussed where you can get different ideas from and where you can get inspiration from. Now, what do you have in store in the fourth session? Now listen, we spoke about a lot of theory like creative ideation, where to get the ideas from. Now it is time to put it all in practice. But where does event ideation start from? It begins with a brief. So we're going to discuss what is a brief. Once we discuss what is a brief, we're going to talk about how to decode a brief. Decode means to crack a brief or to understand it. And the third thing that we're going to cover is how to apply all the techniques that you have learned to ideate or to think of fantastic pitch-winning concepts or central themes. So let's move on and understand each of these points one by one. So first, let's look at the process of ideation. What does event ideation entail? First, we'll get a brief from the client. I will tell you what a brief is later. After you get a brief, you will decode it. As I said, decode means to crack the brief. Once you crack the brief, you get a direction, a line of thinking. And once you get the line of thinking, you'll be able to ideate a central theme or the big idea, which you can develop into a pitch presentation. So this is typically what the process of event ideation is inclusive of. So we look at each of these one by one. Don't worry, I'm going to take you through these and make sure that you understand them. Ready? To understand decoding a brief, first you need to understand what is a brief. In very simple words, a brief is nothing but a problem description or a detailed description by a client to make you understand that what is it that they want to do and why they want to do it. Okay, it should typically include all these details like the background or the objective of the event, like why are they doing the event, what is it that they want from it, who is the target audience, who is going to attend the event, what is it for, who is it for, a brand story. Okay, what is the brand about? What is the company about? What are the some values that they have? The communication takeaway. That means what is it that they want the audience who is attending the event understand from? Or what is the message that they want them to take away from the particular event that they are doing? Okay, and also a good question to ask would be, what are some of the previous year themes that you have done? So for example, if they've done a certain theme and you didn't know about it, and if you start thinking along the same lines and say during the pitch you take the same theme, it would be an entire waste of time because they would have said that we've just done this maybe last year or the year before. It's very important that you ask them, but what have you done in the previous years? Also, another important thing you could also ask is that what are some of the themes that you do not want us to think of? Say, for example, if a corporate says that we do not like to do, say, Bollywood or very Hindi filmy themes, then you have to stay away from those. Otherwise, you will lose the pitch. Also, one very important element is the budget. Okay? The budget means that what is the amount of money that the company is willing to spend for that event. Now, why is it important to ask them what the budget is in the brief? Because if you think of a concept which is very expensive and maybe out of the budget, and say that theme is the only one that you're presenting, then you will lose the pitch. Because the client will say that, I do not have the monies for it, then why are you suggesting that I do it? What is the point? Say, for example, the budget of a particular event is only 10 lakhs. Okay. Now, say you didn't know the budget and you take an option of calling an international celebrity. The international celebrity himself or herself will cost you maybe 10 lakhs. Just an example. So then what are you going to do about it? If the client doesn't have the budget, then okay. So these are some of the minimum elements that you require in a brief. And say if you are not satisfied with it, or if you do not feel that I have all the information that I need to think, then you can always probe the client for more and more details. See, all clients are not that great at briefing. They might or might not give you all the information because sometimes they don't know what information you need. So as a specialist or as somebody who knows events, you need to ask a lot of questions which doesn't answer which doesn't have which are not included in the brief. Okay, so don't feel shy. It's okay to ask questions to your clients. In fact, when I start ideating, I feel very uncomfortable if I do not have the information. And for me, what is a benchmark of a good brief? Okay, so any brief which gives you a sense of direction, or any brief which allows you to ideate freely, is a good brief. Now, a bad brief is a brief which doesn't give you any ideas. It's not necessary that these are the exact ideas that you have to go with, but at least it helps you give your direction and it helps you give some ideas. So if a brief is good, it will help you ideate, it will build onto it. But if the brief is not good, it will not give you that sense of direction, or you will not get good ideas out of it. So make sure you have all the information and make sure that you've understood very well. Okay? Because if you've understood the brief well, then you'll be able to decode it also well. All right? So let's take a look at what is the meaning of decoding a brief. Now, decoding a brief, very simply put, means understanding the brief very well. And when you say understanding the brief, it is not only understanding what is written, but also understanding what is not written in the brief. That is very tricky. This comes with experience. So if you're experienced, sometimes you will understand the client, you will know the pulse of the client, and you will know what they're looking for. They might not say it very upfront, but that's what it means by getting in the client's black box. It means understanding the client's mind. The client might email you the brief, all right, or they might verbally explain to you over the phone, but there must be some things which they miss out, or maybe they've not thought about it, but you have to understand what they are trying to say. Now, if you know the client very well, it's easier. But say if it's a new client, then how do you understand? It's absolutely okay. You should not restrict your thinking by saying that, oh, you know what, I don't think that the client will like this or will not like it. If you feel that it's a good idea, if your gut feeling says that I must go and present this, then please go ahead. But please try and crack the client's black box as far as possible. Okay. And the third thing about decoding a brief is once you've understood the client's requirements, once you've understood what the client is looking for, then obviously you have to crack the theme, the big idea, the central idea, which fits in the client's requirement. So this is typically what it means to decode a brief. I hope you've understood this. If you have understood this, let's move on and let's look at, after you decode the brief, what happens. Once you decode the brief, you will get a direction to think. I told you earlier that a direction to think means there is a way in which your mind will start thinking. Okay. Now, for example, there is a company that says that we want to do a 50-year-old celebration, like we have completed 50 years and want to celebrate it. Okay. Now, you will be a little lost that, okay, 50 years, but after that, what? What is it that the client wants? So then you probe further. And then the client says, oh, you know what? I think we need to do something subtle and something classy. Or say, for example, you think of 50 years as it's a golden jubilee. So a golden theme you think of. So everything golden. Now, say the client says that I want very classy and luxury. So you then suddenly change a direction of thinking and you will say that, okay, only gold might not work. I want something classy also and something which spells luxurious, because they do not want everything very jarring. So you say, all right, black and gold really goes well. So there is gold which talks about 50 years, and at the same time you have a touch of luxury with the color black in it. So say you take the entire theme is black and gold, and all the event elements, the entire event design, everything is around that theme. And then you give a really nice name to it. Okay, so you have a sense of direction. At least you know that you need to think in the terms of black and gold. So the event theme that you will think of, or maybe the entertainment, maybe the ambience or the stage or the music, everything needs to be subtle, it needs to be classy and luxurious, and the visual treatment will be black and gold. So at least here you have some kind of line of thinking, and that is the meaning of a direction. So if you didn't know, if you didn't probe the client further, maybe you would have thought of just gold and gone to the client. And the client would have said, you know what, this is not what we are. This is not the company culture. I'm sorry, this will not do. You don't want to be in that position. You want to make sure that your pitch is a good one, which can actually win the business for you. And that will happen if you understand what the client wants. And that will happen if you correctly take the brief, if you understand, decode it, and get a good direction from them. Okay, so I hope you've understood what it means to get a good direction for a brief. And if you've understood that, we can move on. Now let us understand this with a case study. Okay, now first I'm going to tell you what a brief is, or what a typical brief is. So we had a client. It is a technological company. They are into software coding. We cannot reveal the name, unfortunately, but that is not important at the moment. What is important is to understand what they wanted to do. Who was the TG? The TG were these young employees of the company who had maybe 1 or 2 years, or maybe they were freshers. And they were all software engineers, either from an IIT or similar such institution. Okay, and they were barely about 20 to 22 year olds. What is it that they wanted to do? The activity was such. See, this company had a learning and development department. Learning and development department, what do? They actually focus on the learning aspects of the employees and on the upskilling and upgrading. So what they do is that they had a learning day. They had a learning day wherein they created a whole festival of workshops throughout the day, and they converted their office into classrooms. So every meeting room was converted into a classroom, and they used to call speakers from outside or maybe from within the company to speak on a particular topic. Now, these topics would be of interest to these young people because they're just very new, or they're just 1 year old. And the people who were speaking were experienced people. So they would like to learn from them. They would learn from the experiences that these people thought, like how you are learning right now from me. It's not that I am better than you are. It's just that I have a little more experience. So you are listening to me because of my experiences and because I'm sharing my learnings with you. So like this, the company had something called a learning day for all these employees. The objective of the learning day is to transform the learner's experience when they come to the classroom and reinstill a sense of strong learning culture. Now, these were the dialogues of the client and these were the words of the client. But it is up to you how you decode the brief. What do you understand from this? So what we understood is that learning is a very important part of this company's culture. They want to make sure that their employees keep learning and keep growing because learning will transform them. Learning will help create better employees and learning will help them become better individuals. And they wanted to create this culture, a very strong culture in the company. So this is what we decoded from the particular brief that we had. Now, they gave us a direction. They said that one of the themes that we have in mind is back to school. So this was something which they had thought of. It's not necessary that we had to go ahead with this. They said it's not compulsory, but we at least got a sense of what is it that they want to do. So because of this, we started thinking, but then the problem was, they said that back to school is too academic and very dull. Now see, these are young student kind of people who have just come from institutes and they have just joined the company and they have just passed out, maybe a school or college. And if we say back to school, again, it will become very boring. Now the idea was to actually create excitement for the learners' day. Now, if we take back to school, it would defeat the purpose. So they said we need something more fun and something more interesting, which will get these people, which will create buzz and excitement about learning day. So how we are going to do this? The theme, the concept was going to be extremely critical and the entire success of the event would depend on that. So we had big shoes to fill in. We actually had large expectations that we had to meet, and we had to crack a theme which would make the event a success. And how did we do that? Let's go and see it. Okay. Now, the two things that we decoded was establish the importance of learning. Learning was a key word over here. And secondly, create excitement and buzz about the learning day. So this was the crux. This was the most important part of the brief. The rest of it would follow. The budgets would follow. Who's the TG? It would follow. All of that is separate. But what was important is how we are going to establish these two things. And this was the most challenging of all. So what did we do? We applied our ideation techniques to this. And how did we do it? Let's see. Okay. As I said earlier, that one of my favorite techniques of ideation is word mapping. Okay. Now they have given a direction of back to school. And school was a keyword over here. So I use word mapping by saying what comes to your mind when we say school. I made this little word cloud. I typed in school, I made a word cloud. Now you can either do a word cloud or you can actually do the exercise that we learned earlier, like take a piece of paper, put the keyword in the center and see what all words come out of it. And out of each of the secondary words, which other words come out. Now I have taken this, and what stood out from this whole word cloud was these words: green boards, classrooms, Hogwarts School of Wizardry, textbooks, exams, learning. So these were some of the keywords that came to my mind when I wrote the word school in my word map. Now, what did I do? I said that out of all these keywords, which are kind of relevant to me, this and this looked the most interesting to me. Okay, so Hogwarts, obviously, because I hope you know what Hogwarts is. Okay, so Hogwarts is a school where Harry Potter went to learn about wizardry and magic. It is a fictitious series of books and movies written by author J.K. Rowling. I'm sure all of you have heard and read, and most of you might also be fans. I also love Harry Potter. Okay, so that is why it struck me. Now, do you remember that what pop culture is this? Cinema or books. Okay, so this immediately struck me. And the other thing that came out was learning, because learning was a keyword in which the client was really laying a lot of emphasis on. So these are the two things that I wanted to take ahead from the entire spectrum of all the other words. And what did I do with these? I joined the dots. I applied the technique of joining the dots of pattern associations to arrive at the theme. Okay, what did I do? So I took the keyword learning, which gave me school, which gave me Hogwarts, and Hogwarts gave me the word magic, because Hogwarts is a school of magic. Okay, now I hope you understand slowly, step by step, how I, from a random word or from the word or keyword which the client has given, how I use word mapping and how I use join the dots and associations to come to a different theme. Okay, you can apply it, you can try it. I'm sure it will work because it worked for me. Okay, and this is the theme that we arrived at. Magic of learning. Back to school, magic of learning. Which meant that learning is so magical that it helps transform. So if you remember the brief was all about laying emphasis on learning and why learning is important and how it helps transform. So all this said was, the magic of learning is such that it will transform you completely. Okay, so the word magic gave the fun element and learning made it serious. So it had best of both the words. The other option we gave was revealing the whiz in you. Basically, we all were trying to say that all of us have a potential in us. We are really geniuses from within and we are wizards from within. But it's all about how you learn and polish your knowledge. It will reveal the wizard in you. But guess which one they went with? I'll tell you soon. Now, anything which is cracked, obviously it's all in your mind, but you need to visually depict it, right? So that people can see and understand what your theme is and what it means. So that is called the creative route. Okay, the creative route is a visual route, or the creative way in which you have expressed your theme or your central idea. Okay, now any guesses what was our visual route? I'm sure you all know by now. Okay, so we use the idea inspiration pool of pop culture, which is Harry Potter. Okay, so Harry Potter was all about wizardry and magic and the Hogwarts school and so on and so forth. Okay, and we wanted to fit magic of learning in this. So we added a bit of Harry Potter into it. And how did we connect it? So we said that just like Hogwarts School is a school of magic, so also the company, we likened the company to Hogwarts School, and we said that this company is like the school where learning is magical. Okay, so we connected the theme so that it's set in the audience's mind, because these are the people, okay, these young people are those who have grown up with Harry Potter, you know. So most of these IITians, they really, really love to read these kind of books of fantasy and magic and horror and so on and so forth. Okay, so they are kind of very geeky who have grown up on Potter. And it is pop culture. It is something which everybody would relate to. Now, if you, for example, if you took a dealer's conference, okay, now dealers are not very savvy, okay, they're not too much into reading or they're not too much into English films, all right, they're more traditional, they're more Indian. So if you relate it to cricket or Bollywood, they would have probably liked the theme. But I cannot take a theme like Harry Potter or wizardry for dealers. But in our case, who was the TG? The TG was these young software engineers, you know, well educated, and they were young at 2022. So as I said, they have seen Potter, they have seen the movies, or at least if they're not fans, they at least know about it. So it is a theme which they would relate to, which everybody would understand. It's not something very niche or very cult. Okay, so that's another point, that your theme should not be so niche that other people cannot understand it or they cannot associate with it. Okay, at the same time, it was fun and not too frivolous. Okay, so we cannot have a very kiddie theme when we say fun for these young people. They're all young, grown up people of 20, 22 years, but they're young. So we cannot have too frivolous, but it had to be fun and very exciting. So do you think that Harry Potter or the wizard theme was exciting enough? If you were in place of those students or those employees, would you have attended this event? Yeah, I'm sure you would have. Anyway, do you think that it was easy to execute this Harry Potter theme? Not really. Because remember what we said last time, we spoke about using these pop culture elements as inspiration. But you cannot completely use them because of copyright issues. So we cannot use Harry Potter as Harry Potter or the characters with him, because these are created, these are somebody's creation. Yes, the background is magic and wizardry, which is a concept, and it is a common universal concept. But at least the characters are not universal, they're created, right? So we cannot use them as it is, but we could use elements from films which are more generic or which are more common. Okay, now how did we execute the theme using these elements? Let's see. Do you have any ideas? Let me pause here and make you think. How do you think we would have taken this ahead? What kind of teasers, what kind of invitations we would have done? What kind of on-ground elements we would have done to create excitement? Maybe you want to pause here, pause the video, and note down your own ideas. And let's see if you had the same ideas as we did. So I hope you got some exciting ideas. Now let's move on and see and compare notes. Okay, our theme was called Magic of Learning. And how did we visually depict it? Our creative route looked something like this. So a wand is very wizard. So we used a wand with this whole magical flow. And then we used this ancient paper and quill kind of an element. And we used spectacles of Harry Potter. So see, it was a very smart thing to do where we used Harry Potter, but we didn't use them exactly. It would have given rise to copyright issues. So whenever you are working in for any event or in any event company, make sure that you stay away from all these controversies like plagiarism or copyright. You can always take inspiration, but do not copy anything blatantly. Okay, so we use the elements to give a feel of Harry Potter, but we didn't use the characters. Okay, now taking that forward, what did we do? So we created a lot of pre-event elements, and at the event also we created thematic communication, and post-event also we did some communication, and I will give you a couple of examples of each of them. So what did we do in the first theme? Before that, there is a nice hot tip for you all. that your creative content can also win you pitches, which means that if you play it smart and say your wordplay, your copy, the ideas are very smartly presented, your content is also an important element of your presentation. So use it well, use it wise, and you can win a pitch that. So going forth, what was the pre-event content? So when you say pre-event content means if you want to invite somebody, if you want to, something called teasers. Teasers means, you could have puzzles or riddles just to get them thinking that what is coming up, to get the curiosity going. Okay. So what were some of the elements? What were some of the creative elements that we created for this campaign, for the event? Okay. Now you look at this. We made this riddle. Okay, so we didn't give away the theme or we didn't tell them exactly what it was. We just, in Harry Potter style, we gave our own riddle without using any Harry Potter words or themes or images. We just use a logo and we use this very old castle kind of a look and a broom. These are all universal elements. And we created this copy over here. Okay, read it. What is a brewing in the witch's cauldron? Nay, it is not helping of butterbeer. So these are some of very old English and the medieval ages English that we used, and it gave a very Harry Potter feel. But it's not that we had exactly taken this from a book. We created our own copy, but based on the theme and based on the feel of the theme. You can read this on your own and you can understand how we created the content. You can pause your video for that. Okay, so this was a riddle which went as an emailer to create the first round of excitement. And after that, we created a GIF. You can read it for yourself. Again, it's like a riddle. Okay, so we used a lot of words like spells and wizardry and magical and charm. But the idea was to bring the message of magic of learning that you should not forget in the excitement of the theme. Everywhere we have to speak about how magic, how learning helps transform, how it is magical and how it is important. Okay. And then we had save the date kind of communication going out. Then we had these exciting elements like this Dumbledore kind of a hat. So we kept it in different places so people would again feel very excited and wonder. And they should know these are like reminder medium that something interesting is coming up. And at the event, what did we do? At the event, we had somebody sitting at the registration counter and he was wearing a wizard's cloak. And he was giving out a ticket like this. So it's like an entry ticket. So if you remember in Harry Potter, we had this platform 9 3/4, and we had a logo, and we had this general pass written over here, which was like a ticket to this magical world. Then we had these old style papers and quills, and we had this diary which we gave away. Again, the theme is retained over here in Diary 2018. And we had standees like this. Again, they all give the message of magic of learning. So you can pause your video here and you can read and understand how we created the theme and how we brought out the theme of wizardry and magic of learning through this content. Then we gave these elements like, these little chocolates. They have something called frog-shaped chocolates, or they had these thematic cupcakes, Harry Potter kind of cupcakes. So we had these little elements during the event, which added to the flavor. Then we had these magic potions, okay? So we had little glass bottles and we filled them up with little juices, which we call potion, the potion of learning. And we gave it to all the people who had come over there as just a feeling of excitement. And after the event, we gave them a certificate which said that you are now successful wizards who are now ready to embark on your own magical life adventures. So again, we have to connect it back to wizards and magic and so on and so forth. So your central idea should come out in all the elements if you see. Okay, so because it was wizardry, we had the words magic and spells and wizardry everywhere. Theme, the look and the feel, every element that you see is all connected back to the theme. So you should never forget what a central idea is, and it should communicate, it should come out in all other elements of your event. So this is the end of the fourth session, And in this session, we have actually discovered how we can take the central theme ahead and start designing your event with a creative visualization. And we're going to discuss the same brief and see how we have actually gone forth and designed the other elements in the next year, that is, on a new theme. So see you in session number 5.